Rather than having to type in a whole bunch of samples, because that's really annoying, what I want to do is create this load sample fishes button that when you click it, it will load the samples into state, and we can start dealing with that rather than having to fill out this add fish form automatically. So let's go into our inventory, close these down, and let's add a button that says load sample fishes. Good. And then we want to attach a on-click handler to it that when somebody clicks it, we're going to run a function called load samples. Now, where does that function need to live? Do I create it in inventory or do I create it somewhere else? I'm waiting for you to answer. You create it in app.js. So let's open that up. And why do we put it in app.js? Well, we've created these custom functions that update state, and any custom function that needs to update state needs to live in the same component where our state lives. So we'll make a new one called load samples fishes, and we'll make that an arrow function. And what we need to do is actually load in, let's just alert loading sample. Let's just get this wired up before we get too much stuff. So we have this function called load sample fishes. Now I go back here. How do I call it from inventory? How do you get a function from one component into another component? Props, right? How does anything get anywhere? Props, right? So we'll go into inventory and we'll say load sample fishes is equal to this dot load sample fishes. Then we can go into our inventory and listen for a click. We'll say this dot, is it load sample fishes? No, it's this dot props dot load sample fishes. Why? Because anything that gets passed in to a component is available on the props object in that component. So if that works, clicking this button should run load sample fishes, which in turn should alert loading sample. Boom, working great. I'm happy about that. So next we need to do is look at this samplefishes.js. So this is what I did here is I just created you an object which has fish 1, fish 2. I've got some images of the Hallie. Let's take a look at that. Oh yeah. So that lives inside. Actually, where does that Hallie live inside? That lives in the public folder. So if you have any sort of assets that you want to show up, that shows up in your public folder. And then I have an images folder inside of there for things like oysters. Good. So we need to require this. And this object here is exported default from this file. So in our app.js, we simply need to import it. So we'll say import sample fishes. Actually, it's not capital because it's not a class, from sample fishes. And then when somebody runs this load sample fishes function, we simply call this .setState. And what is the piece of state that we want to update? Fishes. What do we want to update it with? Sample fishes. That's the object that we had. Give it a save. Now, if we look up our app component, our state is empty, but I click this button. Now it will automatically populate fish 1 through 9 with all of the data inside of there, and then we can get to actually displaying our state in just a second.